And welcome, everyone. Welcome to my Sunday conscious eating, conscious living chat. And today I'm in Costa Rica enjoying extreme heat and just getting lots of sunshine in. And today I'm talking about anxiety. And it's not necessarily in your mind, aka, you're not going crazy. I've been reading a book by Dr. Ellen Voro, and she's talking about different issues that actually creates our anxiety or makes it worse. And what makes you anxious may not be what makes me anxious, or even within your family. And she just sort of emphasizes that it's almost like it's not your fault if you don't know some of those things that actually could make it easier for you to cope with life. And especially women these days, it was a couple of generations ago on this Mother's Day, um, they didn't have all the stressors that we do now. They weren't working, for another company. They were working, whether on the farm or with the family. And there's all those stressors, the modern day stress for women. And I think uh, we need to pay attention to that. And how can we alleviate some of those things? And some of it you may not want to do because some of them are our habits that we have. And can you be willing to let go of some of that for a time to see if that actually makes you feel better? And so, some of the dietary changes, add a few strategies. Could you alleviate it a little and then use other strategies that help, help get you through that anxious time? I'm not a counselor, but I've been reading about our gut brain relationship for a few years, and there's some helpful ideas that you might want to give a try. Your body wants to heal, it's divinely designed to heal when we are choosing those lifestyles, the food, and dealing with all the modern conveniences that we have that are actually interfering with that divine design process and the body healing itself. According to Anthony William, the medical medium, anxiety is a neurological symptom, often in combination with other health conditions, and he says they're both caused by a virus, such as Epstein-Barr virus. I recommend you read his books, Medical Medium and the Brain Saver Protocols if you want more information, or go to his website, The Medical Medium. Another author I've been reading recently is Dr. Ellen Vora, who wrote The Anatomy of Anxiety. And she also says it's not really your fault and that solutions are attainable if you're willing to try some of her suggestions. These solutions, and what I'm talking about today, do not replace any therapy you may be already receiving. In one sense, they can be thought of as preventative. My gut health studies have revealed so much over the past 3 years, and there's a basic truth that our bodies can heal themselves with the right tools. It's the divine design within us all. We know now that our gut has a brain and it communicates with our head brain, and that inflammation in the gut, those pesky additives to processed foods and more, also causes inflammation in the brain and throughout our body. We've all been through a very stressful 3 years, and the stress hormone cortisol has been running amok in many of us. And what Dr. Vora offers is interesting. We have low grade stressors that create that same fight or flight response: inflammatory food, inadequate sleep, and social media onslaught through all the devices we use at work, home, and play. Some of these stressors fall into the false anxiety, and by looking at what's triggering one's anxiety, the interventions can help alongside your effort and sacrifice to achieve feeling good, and enjoy a more fulfilling life. So, what is harming us? Watching the news, which adds stress, Facebook scrolling before bed, or any time for that matter when it's taking hours of your day. And that tells the brain that you're not safe. Munching on chips and Doritos, eating those famous five that create an inflammatory response. Eggs, according to Anthony William, dairy, caffeine, alcohol, processed foods, gluten, and sugars. Maybe that was six. Everywhere, including our brain. So that's where the inflammation goes. And cutting back on our sleep is also proving to be a very stressful situation. So, why is sleep critical to our health? What science knows now is that our memories of the day get stored in long term storage bins, and our body repairs cells, fights infection, and restores our energy. And more importantly, the brain needs us to sleep in order to detoxify itself from the waste and the toxins created as we think and act out our day. The anatomy of sleep is where that comes from and where most of this information comes from. So, to make things worse, with chronic stress, norepinephrine lowers its head and affects the lymphatic system from cleaning out the debris from the day. And that's part of the lymphatic system. And our circadian rhythm, we were hardwired to sleep when the sun went down and be active by day. And that process enabled the melatonin produced and secreted by the pineal gland to help us sleep. The SCN, which is another part of our brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, is what tells the brain it's nighttime. So every time you turn on lights, watch TV at night, flick your phone on, or turn on the bathroom light to pee, your SCN turns on and the melatonin gets wasted. You need the dark in your bedroom. Waking up at 3 a.m., that's called the middle sleep break. And don't stress it. And know that you will have 4 more hours or so of sleep. And it may take 15 to maybe 60 minutes to go back to sleep. Add some gratitude to your amazing body for all it does for you. And so don't get anxious about not sleeping because that adds the stress hormones. Next one is coffee. And this affects the sleep as well. And this is not so popular you might want to think about, especially if your sleep is not sound or of long duration. How addictive is the it's just 1 cup in the morning routine? Caffeine has a half-life of 5 hours. So it took your body 5 hours to metabolize half of it. 10 hours after your first cup could be affecting your sleep, except if it's after maybe 6 a.m. and that half-life is finished by the time you have dinner. And remember, chocolate, Coke, black tea, and matcha all fall in to the caffeine category. I've mentioned glyphosate in earlier Facebook chats, but it's worth mentioning again. It's likely the main reason why more people are becoming sensitive and reactive to gluten. In many European countries, glyphosate is banned, which is why you can eat French and Italian bread when you go to a trip to Europe without a gut reaction. The glyphosate causes intestinal permeability, otherwise known as leaky gut. And the EPA of the United States suspects that it may injure or kill 93% of the plants and animals in those sprayed fields. And the WHO International Agency for Research on Cancer has theorized that it harms the bacterial diversity of the gut and affects the enteric nervous system. This in turn affects the short chain fatty acids, the GABA, which is the gamma aminobutyric acid, and the butyrate, which ghee butter contains. And without this, we don't get the message of, shh, it's okay. And therefore, sleep eludes us. Some of the food elements that affect our sleep. Those infamous foods of dairy, gluten, caffeine, unhealthy fats, processed food, and sugar, and more have us in a tight grip of addiction. There's two substances called the gluteomorphin and the casomorphin, and the culprits of two of those foods, of the gluten and the cheese. And they act like opiates. in the human body. Through a leaky gut, they actually cross the blood brain barrier and potentially act on opiate receptors in the brain. Ever wonder why you crave your cheeses or your pizza? And for some folks, it causes a fuzzy or groggy feeling after a meal, or leaves them feeling antsy or strung out, which can contribute to anxiety. And for those with sensitive bodies, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, or gas may occur. For others, symptoms may occur down the road, and you not having making the connection between the symptoms and the food you ate weeks or maybe a month ago. These symptoms may include postnasal drip, joint pain, rashes, eczema, itchiness, acne, or even migraines. Have you got unknown causes for your chronic health issues? Try going off these foods, gluten and dairy, for a month and see what your body has to say. Something I've been recommending with all the foods that you purchase is check out the ingredient list. Remember, natural flavor is MSG. Avoid citric acid, vinegar, and brewer's yeast, to mention a few. As Helen Vora states, know your own body and make conscious, self-loving choices for yourself day after day. So if it means going off your favorite food, try it. See what it does for you. So what can we do to help? Own the knowing that you yourself can make a difference, not the pills and the so called advice from the food and drug industry. Listen to your body and the signals it's sending you. Take time to listen 2 to 3 minutes a day in silence. That's mindful meditation. This is where your body, your soul, and your spirit connect with you. And it's not about reaching that bliss state. Is give your mind and your body a reset break, that all your thoughts pass through and keep coming back to the present, to that present moment. In time, this will work for you. Patience and compassion. Get some sleep. Put your devices on a night shift, that blue light blocking. Try yellow glasses. Read a book in the evening, i.e., no TV, no phone in your bedroom, blackout shades, and maybe an eye mask. Leave that last minute note to do on your list until tomorrow. Get outside, take a walk in nature if you can, or stroll around your garden if that's what you got, focusing on your senses and being present to them. And know someone who owns a cabin? Go camping for a weekend. Forests are incredibly healing, not to mention increased oxygen for you. Hunter gatherers will go to bed 3 hours after sunset, but that's not so easy depending on your location around the globe and the season. Imagine going to bed at 8 p.m. during the winter or 1 a.m. at the peak of summer. They generally recognize bedtime as around 9:30 to 10:45 p.m. And of course, that depends on what time you arise in the morning. For those of you who experience blood sugar crashes in the middle of the night, Dr. Vora suggests a jar of almond butter or coconut butter at your bedside and grab a spoonful as needed. And one last note about anxiety is not to ignore it. It's your body's response to something. Is it a deeper fear you haven't addressed yet? So often in our modern society, we've learned to suppress our feelings, our fears, and our upsets, especially boys. We're supposed to be brave and with courageous with life, and it hands us when sometimes we just need to cry and let out the sadness, the fear, the fright that we experienced. Are anxious people a bit like the canary in the coal mine, where they're expressing what is off or wrong with our current way of dealing with stressful situations? If your child is a temper tantrum, teach him or her to complete it and not offer a treat to get them to stop. That just teaches them that one, they can't handle it, and they don't learn any strategies to deal with the frustration. Find out what started it and what solutions can you both come up with to deal with the next frustration or crisis. Your future self will be so appreciative. Dr. Ellen Vohr's book, The Anatomy of Anxiety, is a highly recommended read, even if you don't think you're an anxious person. Here are some of James Asher's 5-minute videos to shake, stomp, and dance to every day. And the first one Ellen recommended in her book. And remember how deer shake themselves off after a fearful flight to escape death? And they shake their whole body and they get back to eating the grass again. They've released that those stressors. And we need to do that too. Besides, we're also shaking up the myofascial tissue to reduce the pain and increase blood flow to our muscles. So it's a win-win. So I will include some of these uh, videos from James Asher. Some you can stomp, others you just shake. And I invite you to, try it out, see if that helps, and you know, find help if the anxiety is really severe. Try the food, more sleep, and less online time. So namaste to you all. Blessings, and have a wonderful day and the rest of your week. Thank you.